Right.
All praises. Peace, 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 family. All praises. Peace, 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 family. Okay, all praises, peace, family. This is Maury Yaakov. Everything seems to be checking out on time. We running a little late tonight, but it's all good. All right, all praises. This is Maury Yaakov. Make sure that's when you come into the building, you press that like and subscribe button. Before we get started, let me blow the shofar. We thank the Creator for bringing us to this point. We thank the Creator for protecting us, guiding us, providing for us, and just being the Creator Himself. You know, a lot of times we get to the point where it's that we quit and we get slack and we get comfortable not praising the Creator and the Creator alone. So before we go any further, we have to give the Creator His praise, His honor, and the glory to Him and to Him alone. Just give me 1 second, y'all. You good, buddy? Lay down. Lay down. Okay. Lay down. All right, we thank the Creator. All right, had a long day today. A long day. That's why I'm running behind. But we thank the Creator for each one of you for joining me at TFTR Network. We're going to get into part 2. We're going to get into part 2, Neighbor's House. Because, you know, a lot of times, you know, we get a false equivalence of what we think the law is really entailing. And it's cool. That's a lot of us, we have to get to that point where we become familiar with the law. You know, I'm just trying to find it. So we have to make sure, because a law goes in depth. It goes in depth with, you know, we read it and then we think it's we think surface level. But a lot of times it's not surface level that we need to be paying attention to. We need to go in depth with the law itself. So on last week in the Creator's Will, we talked about, I went into the neighbor's house and we broke down together. Shalom, shalom to Sister Sephora, Trey, and Zayden. We broke down Happy Shabbat to each one of you. Make sure it's when you come into the building, you press that like button and share button. We broke down the neighbor house, and we discovered that the neighbor can have someone desire him because he's not forbidden like everybody and everything else in the house. You see, shalom, shalom to Sister Latoya G. Happy Shabbat. Make sure when you come into the building, you press that like and share button. So as we get further into the house, we realize that the neighbor has his position that he plays within the house. And you don't supposed to covet that position. We discovered last week David did that with Uriah. He covered Uriah's position. You see, that's why he had Uriah killed. So when you cover something, there's because the word cover just simply means desire. There's good desires and there are bad desires. But in this particular law, it's talking about a bad desire. Meaning you want the role, the position of that position that's in the house. And David wanted Uriah's position. You see? We went into many other examples as well. You go back and look at part 1, thy neighbor's house. So let's go ahead and get into part 2, but we're going to finish up part 1. And then we're gonna roll on into part 2, all into one. So before we can move forward into the wife's role, shalom, shalom to Sister Shamara Bowman and Emery. Happy Shabbat to each one of you. And shalom, shalom to Brother Joel Smith. Happy Shabbat to you as well. Make sure that's when you come into the building, you press that like button and that subscribe. That's if you haven't subscribed to the page, subscribe. And if you have, share the page. All praises, all praise, all praise to the Creator. So before we can move to the wife role, we have to finish up on the man, the neighbor's role. See, the man should not desire, when we talk about the neighbor, a male, should not desire anything in his neighbor's house if he's not in a position to protect all that is in that house and or provide for all that is in the house. If that male is not in that position, he should not even be desiring it. And that's in a good way. We talk about a good way. You desiring to be like what you see your neighbor doing in his house. You see? If you're not in a position, men, to provide and protect, you shouldn't be desiring. Let's just put that on the table. And in nature, guess what? Every animal in life don't have a chance to procreate itself. And that's the same thing in life when it comes to us as people, humans. Every man should not And every man do not deserve his seed line to be reproduced. You see? But for somehow we got any man just being willy-nilly producing themselves. And we wonder why the community in the household is messed up. This is the reason. Every man don't deserve a child. Just like every woman don't deserve to be a mother. See how that work? See, before that male have children, he should position himself in order to desire that house that he sees. And he could desire the house of his father. His father has a house and he could desire what's inside of his father's house. In other words, he desired for his house to be set up, to run, to rule, and etc., like his father, or like his uncle, or like someone else in the family, or even a friend. But that young man must position himself before he start desiring in that mode. Okay? He should never desire to take over what is in the house. He should never desire that. But he should desire to be like his neighbor if his neighbor is righteous. You see? If his neighbor is righteous, he should desire to be like that. There's nothing wrong with that. Let's go to the book of Judith. The book of Judith, that's in the Apocrypha. Judith. Judith, we're going to go to the 4th chapter. The book of Judith, the 4th chapter. We're going to start at verse 1. The book of Judith, the 4th chapter, we're going to start at verse 1. It says, now the children of Israel that dwelt in Judea heard all that Hodernis, the chief captain of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Assyria, had done to the nation. And after what manner he had spoiled all their temples and brought them to naught, meaning this particular captain did some damage to the homeland and to the buildings that were there. Okay, inside of where Israel was dwelling, the homeland. Therefore, they were exceedingly afraid of him because they saw the destruction that this man was bringing upon them. So Israel was afraid of them, or him, and were troubled for Jerusalem because the southern kingdom was there. See, Assyria, the 10 tribes were afraid of the Assyrians, but they began to now think about the southern kingdom. So they began to be afraid for the southern kingdom. You see? And for the temples of the creator, their power. Now, the 10 tribes realized they got themselves in a pickle. And they realized that the southern kingdom is still home. And so they began to become afraid for them because of the experience that they're going through at that time. Verse 3, for they were newly returned from the captivity. And all the people of Judea were lately gathered together. And the what? Vessels and the altar and the house were sanctified after the proclamation. Therefore, they sent into all the coasts of Samaria and the villages, and to what? Bethroom, and to Belaman, and to Jericho, and to Chaboa, and to Asora, and to the what? Valley of Salem, and possessed themselves beforehand of all the tops of the what? High mountains, and fortified the villages that were in them, and laid up victuals for the provision of war. For their fields were what? Of late reap. Verse 6. Also, Joachim, the high priest, which was in those days in Jerusalem, wrote to them that dwelt in Bethulia. I can't pronounce that word, which is over against Esdraelon, towards the what? Open country near Dothaim, charging them to what? Charging them to keep the passages of the hill country, for by them there was an interest into Judea, and it was easy to stop them that will come up, because the passage was straight for 2 men at the most. Verse 8, and the children of Israel did as Joachim the high priest had what? Commanded them, and the ancient of all the people of Israel which dwelt in Jerusalem. Now you saying, well, what all this got to do? Well, let's keep reading. Verse 9, then every man of Israel cried to the Creator. Every man in Israel cried to the Creator. With great fervency, meaning they were really crying. It wasn't nothing fake, no facade. They had a real issue. Every man of Israel cried. That's the neighbor. Okay? They cried with fervency. Fervency. That's what they cried with. Fervency. Let's look that word up, fervency. What fervency means? Somebody put it in the chat for me. That's F-E-R-V-E-N-C-Y. What fervency means? Fervency. A fervent prayer. That's scripture. Fervency. Who got it? Sister Latoya put up intense or passionate feeling and feeling, adore, zeal, or favor. Correct. Because fervency is having or displaying passionate, intensity. That's the passion. With, like Sister Latoya just put up, that's that passion. You got to have that passion. They cried with passion. All men in Israel. They cried with passion. See how that go? Watch this. And with great what? Vehemency. What is vehemency? Somebody put in, that's Vehemency. They cry with passion and vehemency. What is the definition for vehemency? Somebody put in the chat. Vehemency. What is that? They cried with great fervency and with great vehemency. What is vehemency? Somebody put in the chat. That's Vehemency or vehement. Just you could take off the C and just look up vehement. Vehement. What is vehement? Because every man supposed to be doing this. Sister Latoya put up the quality of being vehement, meaning strong, intense, and passionate. Often to the what? Point of being forceful or angry. Right. There's a passion there. The aggressiveness of that passion is coming out. Sister Zipporah put up, marked by intensity of feeling or conviction, empathetic. Correct. There's a passion. All the men of Israel had passion with great feelings, crying out to the Creator. And notice what they did. When they had that passion, as if that thing was gripping them, the passion was gripping them. Notice what it did. Did they humble their souls? See, a lot of men, a lot of the neighbors in the house is not subdued. It's because there's no passion coming from you. There's no passion that's gripping you. There's no passion there. You don't even feel the intensity coming from your energy. A lot of brothers' energy is comfortable. It says all the men of Israel cried with that passion that was gripping them, that humbled them. You see that? Look at verse 10. Both they and their wives and their what? Children. And their cattle. And every what? Stranger and hireling. And their servants brought with money, put sackcloth upon their loins. Here we go. Joshua said, as for me and what? My house. That means anything that dwells in your house supposed to have this energy. I'm going to let that sit for a minute. And the men, the neighbors, supposed to position themselves for that to take place. See? That's what Moses was talking about in Deuteronomy, the 30th chapter. When you called to mind among the nations where you were driven. The passion's supposed to be there when you pray. In your house. This is why captivity is still moving. Let's go to verse 11. Verse 11 says, thus every man and woman. I already read that. Verse 12, and cried to the Creator of Israel, all with what? One consent earnestly. I just sat there and told you, the crying, the passion can't be fake. It has to be real. And the neighbor's position is supposed to make sure that in the house, that passion is real. And you can see what they were praying for. I'm not going to go no more further into that. You can see what they were praying for. And the neighbor had to make sure his house lined up passionately with that grip that humbles the soul. That was the neighbor's job. That was his position. You see? So let's stay in the book of Judith, and let's go to the 8th chapter. Let's go to the 8th chapter. See, because the neighbor, yes, other women can desire him if they're not married. But he has to make sure that the house is humble. Watch. Judith was living good. Judith, the 8th chapter, we're going to start at verse 1. Now, at that time, Judith heard thereof, which was the daughter of who? Murray, the son of Ox, the son of Joseph, the son of Ozel. You know, and it gets into all the names. I ain't going to get into that. Let's go to verse 2. And Messages was her husband. Manasseh was her husband. Of her tribe, Manasseh was her husband. Of her tribe and kindred. You see? They were of the same tribe and they were of the same lineage. Who died in the barley harvest. So her husband passed away. The neighbor passed away. Now watch this. So the neighbor's dead now. He died in the barley harvest. For verse 3, for as he stood overseeing them that bound sheaves in the field, the heat came upon his head, and he fell on his bed and died in the city of Bethulia. And they buried him with his fathers in the field between Dothaim and Balamo. So her husband died. The neighbor died. And they buried him. He died working. But let's keep reading. Verse 4. So Judith was a widow. She's a widow now. In her house. Not in the neighbor's house, but in her house. She's not all over the place. She's in her house now. Even though her husband is dead, she still is in her own house. Three years and 4 months. Verse 5. And she made her tent upon the top of her house. She's not placing tent in somebody else's position, somebody else's house. She's doing it upon her own house. And put on what? Sackcloth. We just sat there and showed in the 4th chapter that all the men, women, and wives, children, they put on sackcloth and they prayed with passion. And that passion was so gripping them that it humbled their soul. So Judith is doing this after her husband have passed. She put on sackcloth. Upon her loins and wore her widow apparel. So she's showing that she's a widow. She belonged to no man now. Or do she? Watch. Verse 6. And she fasted all the days of her widowhood. So hold on. Stop. Why is she not going to clubs and going over here to try to sex up things and all? She's still moving according to her house. She haven't moved outside of her house, even though she's a widow. Why am I saying this? Because we're going to get into it tonight. Because that cry from your spirit has to be sincere. Watch. She wore her widow apparel. She didn't care because it was about the cry. She still was moving in her purpose, in her position, in her house. She didn't get out of tune. She stayed in tune. Verse 6. And she fasted all the days of her widowhood. This is what she was doing. Some of y'all don't even fast one day. Some of y'all don't even fast 2 minutes. But she fasted all the days of her widowhood, save the eyes of the Sabbaths, meaning she wasn't fasting on the Sabbath, and the Sabbaths, and the eyes of the what? The new moon. When you know the new moons, according to Noah, there's only 4. And the new moons, and the feasts, and solemn days of the house of Israel. Those are the only times she wasn't fasting. Other than that, she was fasting. Verse 7, she was also of a goodly countenance. She was a good person to deal with. And very beautiful to behold. Now, the first thing we'll say, oh, look how beautiful she look in the face. But yes, that could be one. But guess what? It can also be how she carried herself in her spirit demeanor. And I'm going to show you why she continued wearing her widowhood clothes. I'm going to show you that in a minute. She was beautiful to behold. And her husband, Manasseh, had left her what? Gold, silver, and men servants and maid servants, and cattle and land, and she remained upon them. She did not move from out of her position as a wife, even when her husband died. Her widow clothes was there to remind her of the neighbor. Not saying she was holding on to the neighbor. The clothes reminded her of the neighbor. The same way we talked about fringes. Fringes supposed to remind you of your land, your thought, and your what? Genealogy. She kept her widow clothes on because it reminded her of the neighbor. So she stayed duty bound in her role as a wife. See how that go? See how that go? Watch this. Verse 8, and there was none that gave her an ill word, as she feared the Creator, what? Greatly. Nobody came in to cover her position because she feared the Creator greatly. She kept everything in place in how the neighbor placed it. You see? We're going to talk about this. Everything has to stay in place. She did not cover the neighbor's position even though he was dead. I'm going to let that sink for you for a minute. because we're talking about a wife tonight. And you can read the story. You can read the story. You can continue to read the story. Let's go to the 16th chapter of Judith. Let's go to the 16th chapter. We're still in the same book. The 16th chapter. She inherited everything. But she allowed everything to remain as if he was there. That's why she wore those clothes. Let's start at verse 1. Then Judith began to sing this thanksgiving in all Israel. And all the people sang after her this song of praise. And Judith begin unto my God with tambourines. Sing unto my Creator with cymbals. Tune unto him a new psalms. Exalt him and call upon his name. You see? And then you can get into the song. You can get further on into the song, but let's skip down. Let's skip all the way down. Let's go to verse 22. Watch this. Remember her beauty. Well, let's jump back up. Let's go back up to verse 20. And then we're going to read down verse 20. Let's start back at verse 20. And then we're going to read down. So the people continue feasting in Jerusalem before the sanctuary. Went to Bethulia and remained in her own possession and was in her time honorable in all the country. Verse 22, and many desired her. Many desired Judith, but none knew her all the days of her life. She didn't give them a time of day. You see that? She didn't give him a time of day. None knew her. They desired her, but none knew her. After that, Manasseh, her husband, was dead and was gathered to his people. Even after her husband died, she kept herself. Watch. See, a lot of women, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's not wrong with it. But she had a purpose. It's not wrong with a woman going and get another husband after the husband died. It's nothing wrong with that. But Judith had a purpose in her house. Okay? But she increased more and more in honor and waxed old in her husband's house. Notice what it says? Her husband's house. Why it didn't say her house? Because you know what? When the spouse dies, the house goes to the spouse that's living, according to this law. I remember when my grandfather, before he passed, he told my grandmother, do not sell my mother's houses. But the first thing we do when somebody dies, we say it's mine. She never claimed the house to be hers. Even though everything was left to her, it was still not hers. It was the neighbor's house. It was still the neighbor's house. Because guess what? A lot of times women go out when when the husband dies, they'll go get a man and bring a man into the house who don't have that same vision as the neighbor who was there. And next thing you know, that woman start to move a different move. Because the new neighbor don't have the same vision as the old neighbor that were there. Sometimes a lot of people say, well, you got to move on. Really? Do you? Huh? You even got to be careful with that, moving on. So it says she lamented. She waxed old in her what? Husband's house. Being a what? 105 years old. And made her maids free. She set her maid free. You see? So she died in Bethuel. And they buried her in the what? Cave of her husband, Manasseh. You see? And the house of Israel lamented for 7 days. And before she died, she did distributed her goods to all them that were nearest of kindred to Manasseh. Stop. She didn't give nothing to her family. She gave it to the husband's family. See, in this system, they tell you it's yours when the spouse dies. But in custom of the Hebrew, it goes to the husband's family. But the wife said, hell no, that's mine now. It's mine. That was my husband. He died. He left that. It's mine. Come to me now. I'm going to give it to whoever I want to. Blah, 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 blah. Whoop, 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 whoop. She distributed to her husbands. Kindred. And to them that were what? Nearest of her kin. So she made sure everybody got a portion. Y'all know how sometimes when a person dies, you just forget about the family? In the Hebrew custom, you don't supposed to forget about the family that you were tied to, even though that spouse is gone. In verse 25, and there was none that made the children of Israel any more afraid in the days of Judith for a long time after her death. So I read those to show you the house and show you the wife of that house. Her role is never to change the house, even when the head or the neighbor pass. She's supposed to stay within the bounds of the law. Of that house. That's why in Genesis 2 and 24, let's go there. Genesis 2 and 24. Many of you should know this. That's why it says, therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall become one. Let me ask a question. The word cleave, means to be glued or to be stick or stuck together. So that man is leaving his father and his mother. He's building his house, and he's going to invite the female into his house, and they supposed to what? They're supposed to be glued together. They're supposed to be glued together, family. He's supposed to be glued to his wife. I'm going to let that sit for a minute. The man is coming to be glued to that woman he chooses. See how that work? See how that work? It's supposed to be glued. But here's the problem. When do the glue stop sticking? When do the glue stop sticking? Because we see even in the book of Judith Judith glue stuck even after the husband's death. So what stopped your glue from sticking? Huh? What stopped your glue from sticking? The man supposed to stick, be glued to the female. Let's go to First Esdras. Esdras in the Apocrypha. First Esdras 4:25. First Esdras 4:25. Look what it says. First Esdras 4:25. Wherefore a man loveth his wife better than father or mother. The neighbor is supposed to love his wife better than father and mother, because he left their house to become glued to his wife. They're supposed to be they're supposed to not be separable. But some people, some men are still glued to home. Mom and father, father and mama. Let me read that again. Wherefore a man loveth his wife better than father or mother. Father and mother is never supposed to be greater than wife. Some people can't let go mama and daddy. You see? That's a form of coveting. You desire mom and daddy more than your wife. That's a form of coveting. Let's go to the book of Sirach 40:23. Sirach 40:23. You see, the neighbor has a responsibility. Sirach 40 and 23. A friend, Sirach, the 40th chapter, verse 23. A friend and companion never meet amiss. Amiss. Somebody put the definition of amiss in the chat. Amiss. 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 It says a friend and companion never meet amiss. What do amiss means? Sister Sapar put up amiss, not quite right, inappropriate, or out of pocket. Well, out of place, pocket, yes. A friend and companion never is what? Out of pocket. They are never going to be inappropriate. You see? It's going to always be right. A friend and companion never is out of pocket. But above both is a wife with her husband. You see how that works? Because the wife has a role in the house. See how that works? Let's stay in 2nd Esdras. Let's go to the 9th chapter. Second Esdras, the 9th chapter. Verse 47. 2nd Ezra 9:47. It says, so when he grew up and came to the time that he should have a wife, I made a feast. You see what's going on? A feast has to be there at a wedding. Okay? Let's go to Wisdom of Solomon 8:2. Wisdom of Solomon 8, the 8th chapter, verse 2. I'm going to read verse 1. Wisdom reached from one end to another, mightily, Salakias, mightily. And sweetly doeth she order all things. Verse 2. I love her and sought her out from my what? Youth. So you're supposed to seek who? Wisdom in your youth. I desire to make her my spouse. See, this is why Judith continued doing what she was doing even after her husband passed, because wisdom became her spouse. Wisdom was always her spouse. So when she followed wisdom, she was following the Creator's laws. The beginning of wisdom is to fear the Creator. And she displayed the law of the Creator. Even after her husband passed, she was displaying the law. I desired to make her my spouse, and I was a what? Lover of her beauty. Is wisdom beautiful to you? Is wisdom beautiful to you? Let's stay in second. Let's go back to 2nd Ezra and let's go to the 16th chapter. Second Ezra 16, verse 33 and 34. This is talking about war, catastrophe. And look what happened. The virgins shall mourn, having no bridegrooms. So there's going to come a time when virgins can't find bridegrooms. The woman shall mourn, having no husband. Their daughters shall mourn, having no helpers. It's not going to be enough men that's righteous. And a lot of the sisters, there are going to be a lot of sisters that are left with no covering because of catastrophe. Excuse me. Because of catastrophe dealt with our men. Look what verse 34 says. In the war shall their bridegrooms be destroyed. Are we in a war now today, family? Is our men getting shot, jailed. We could blame it on this, and we could say accountability. It doesn't matter. Let me read it again. In the wars. It didn't tell you no particular war. It just say wars. W-A-R-S, wars. Shall their bridegrooms be destroyed? And their husbands shall perish of famine. That could be food, or that could be the word of the Creator. So you mean to tell me there's going to be a lot of sisters with no covering? Because the men are going to be destroyed through wars. And these sisters are mourning. You can read the rest on your own. It's talking about a catastrophe. And there's going to be a shortage of righteous men. Let's keep cooking. So even when the sisters is not a virgin, if sisters is not a virgin, she has to realize her value has been lost. Now, some female ain't gonna agree with that. What you mean by that? If a sister is not a virgin, she lost some of her value of herself. And if she has a child, she lost even more value of herself. And if she have children, she lost herself, the value of herself. She lost it. She lost the value of herself. Especially if she's not married to that guy. Remember, the husband comes to glue himself to that female. What stops the glue? It's when they're being sticking and tearing. Sticking and tearing. Eventually, eventually the stickiness of the glue is going to dissipate. So she has to realize she lost the value of herself. Once when a female realized she lost the value of herself, she can now be that good thing to that man, and now she can now create that favor from the Creator that that man needs. You saying what you saying, brother? Because the reason how you know a lot of females is in that role, that they don't believe that they lost the value of themselves, because they're trying to compete with the younger sisters. They're trying to compete. See how that works? They're trying to compete. They done lived. But now they're trying to compete with the younger sisters. See, Judith didn't do that. She didn't compete with the younger sisters. She understood the value was in her house, not competing outside her house. She put on sackcloth. She didn't move from the purpose of her house, even after her husband died. She stayed within the framework of the house. I know some women today, and I'm not right. This lesson is for the females tonight. I know some older sisters today. Soon as their husband died, they jump in the bed with another Negro. Because there was no value in that house for that neighbor. Once when that female realized she lost the value is being a virgin. And once when she realized she messed up by being with the wrong neighbor, she can now be that good thing and that favor. But if she never admitted, she never agreed to it, but she can never be that good thing. She can never be that favor. Because the Bible says when a man finds a wife, he finds a good thing and favor from the Creator. But if that woman don't realize she messed her value up, then tell me how she gonna be a good thing to the man that she's married to. How? Tell me how. Because there's no stickiness. The glue. Genesis, the second chapter. Let's go through. Let's get into the marriage ceremony. Genesis, the second chapter. When I brought this out in Bible study in Clubhouse, those who've been listening, you know what I'm about to say. Genesis, second chapter. Start at verse 15. No. Excuse me, Salakia. Go to verse 22. And the rib which the Creator had taken from man, made he woman, and brought her unto him. And Adam said, this is the bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman because she was what? Taken out of me, out of man. Okay? Let's look at verse 21. And the Creator caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam. And he slept, and he took one of the ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof. That word took means to lay hold. He laid hold. When he laid hold to her, he have to realize what he's getting. What is he laying hold to? See how that work? We go by beauty, how she look face-wise and body-wise and this. No. Adam laid hold to the woman. He understood what he was laying hold to. He understood what he was getting. He understood that. He invited her in because he at any moment could have rejected her when the Creator brought her. But he invited her in after when she was what? Brought unto him. He invited her in. So when he invited her in, before he invites her in, he have to realize, what is he getting? Like they say, like New Edition say, is he getting a big butt and a smile? What is he getting? You see? See, a lot of us, we'll just take hold to the female because of how she look. Physical attraction, body attraction. What are you laying hold to, men? Why are you gravitated to her, men? Because when you invite her in the house, she has to fulfill her role. Do not desire thy neighbor's wife because she has her place in the house. Proverbs 6:32. Let's ride it real quick. Proverbs 6:32. But whoso committeth adultery with a woman lacketh understanding. He that doeth it destroyeth his own soul. What woman is he talking about? Any woman? No. Exodus 20:14. Let's ride it real quick. Is he talking about any woman? No. Thou shalt not commit adultery. That's vague. You see how vague that is? So let's go to Leviticus 20:10. I went over some of this last week. I'm just kind of recapping these scriptures. Leviticus 20:10. And the man that committeth adultery with another man's wife, even he that committeth adultery with his neighbor's wife, the adulterer and the adulteress shall surely be put to death. See how that work? See how that work? Let's go to Tobit, the 4th chapter, verse 12. The book of Tobit, back into the Apocrypha. The book of Tobit, the 4th chapter. Beware of what? All whoredom, my son. And chiefly take a wife of the seed of what? Thy fathers. And take not a strange woman to wife. So the woman that you married don't supposed to be strange. She's supposed to be the seed of thy fathers. See, because the strange woman, according here, is not of your father's tribe. We are the children of the prophet Noah, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. Remember, my son, that our fathers from the beginning, even that they all married wives of their own kindred. They didn't just marry anybody. They knew who they were marrying. See? And it says that they were blessed of their children and they inherit the land. They inherit the land. Because they did it according to the Creator. The man found a woman. How do a man find a woman? He understands her purpose. He sees the things that she can do that's going to be good for him and bring favor unto him. You see how that work? The wife is not strange to the house. She's not strange to the husband's purpose. We saw that in the book of Judith. So a lot of people say, you know, when you get married, you got to have the marriage license. That's the sign that shows you that you're a wife. No, you not. No, even marriage license don't make you a wife. Fair use, fair use. This is not my material. I claim no rights to this material. This is for teaching purposes and educational purposes only. Fair use under the Copyright Act of 1976. This is IUIC talking to the people about Marriage license. So let's ride with it.
Right, and took paper and then write an instrument of covenant. So in order for you to take a wife, you must have an instrument of covenant. Today we call that a marriage certificate. Why? Because if he decide I don't want to be with neither one of y'all no more, he can leave. And if he leave, what are y'all left with? Nothing. You don't have nothing but babies. It's nothing you can do. God put these laws in order in place to protect the woman. To protect not the woman, but not only the woman, but to protect the relationships. To protect godly relationships. In order to have a godly relationship, what you must have? An instrument of what? An instrument of covenant. And sealed it. And sealed it, meaning you go downtown and get it stamped by the proof of authority and say this is a legal binding marriage. And go.
Family, they say you go get a marriage certificate and you seal it. Is what he say. And you go downtown and you seal it. This is what he say you do. Let's grab another one. Let's grab another one. Same group. This day leader. Let's go. Fair use, fair use. Still under Fair Use Act of 1976. Copyright. Let's go. We don't claim no rights to this material. Let's ride.
Moses. Take her after the law of Moses. Come on. And lead her away to thy father. Come on. And he blessed them. And called Edna his wife. Good. And took paper. And took papers. And did her after the law of Moses. Take her after the law of Moses. Come on. And lead her away to thy father. Come on. And he blessed them. And called Edna his wife. Good. And took paper. And took papers. And did her after the law of Moses. Take her after the law of Moses. Come on. And lead her away to thy father. Come on. And he blessed them. And called Edna his wife. Good.
Let's go to Tobit, the 12th chapter, 4th chapter, verse 12. Let's go to Tobit, 4:12. I mean, excuse me, not 4:12. Give me 1 second. Let's go to Tobit, the 7th chapter, verse 14. Let's go over what they were talking about. Let's go to Tobit, the 7th chapter, verse 14. Notice look what it says. And he called Edna, his wife, and took paper. He took paper and did write and did write an instrument of covenant and sealed it. It wasn't the courts, family. They didn't go to the courthouse to get no marriage certificate. And they were in Assyria. Tobit got paper. And he wrote a covenant upon that paper, which is called a ketubah. That's an agreement between the male and the female. And when they got finished writing the ketubah, it was sealed. They didn't go to no courthouse and file that. That's a new phenomenon. That's a new phenomenon. The origin of marriage license. Do the marriage license make you husband and wife? Let's read. Marriage license can be traced back to different historical periods and regions. In the United States, one of the first recorded marriage license was in the colonial Massachusetts around 1639. But was that your people who was on that marriage license that they claimed that was in Massachusetts? Or was that your conqueror marriage license? In Europe, marriage licenses were used in France and in England during the 14th century. See, that's over there, not here. In America, there was no marriage license. The concept of marriage license has existed in various civilizations with evidence dating back to ancient Mesopotamia around 2350. So what was it then? Why they don't give you an example of it? Marriage license only deal with inheritance, property, and taxes. That's it. Property, taxes, and inheritance. This is what's going on. So a lot of females would think the marriage license, they married. Marriage license don't make you married when it comes to the Creator. That's for the states. Marriage license is for the states. That practice did not come from your people. Marriage license came from your oppressor. You see? What about a wedding ring? What about a wedding ring? What's the deal behind a wedding ring? The wedding ring. Wedding rings date back to ancient times, although there's no formal documentation chronologically the earliest engagement rings and the history of wedding rings. Historians and jewelers generally agree that the tradition of giving a ring to your lovers date back to ancient Egypt. So they saying the wedding ring is an ancient Egyptian custom. That's an Egyptian custom. Then Rome got it. Then Rome got it. In Egypt, the round ring represent a circle that cannot be broken. Then Rome got it. And Rome was engraving whatever in the ring, but then when the church got hold to it, they say, nah, just get wedding bands. That's plain. But I ain't seen none of these customs yet come from Israel. But we hop ourselves on these customs thinking that these customs is of Israel. And we follow it to the T. How about the white wedding dress? Anybody know where the white wedding dress come from? Did the white wedding dress come from you? Your people? Or is that something else you following that belongs to somebody else's culture? That come from Queen Victoria. Great Britain. That's your oppressor again. The white wedding dress originated in Great Britain with Queen Victoria, wearing a white lace gown at her wedding to Prince Albert in 1840. Child, I got to get my white dress. That represents purity. Tradition. And you think when you follow these traditions, you're becoming a wife. How about the woman, the man carrying a woman over the door threshold. Carrying a woman over the door threshold. It comes from Rome. The tradition of carrying the bride over the threshold dates back to Roman mythology. It is believed that this practice symbolizes the bride's virginity and protection from evil spirits. You see? This ain't got nothing to do with Israel. None of it. But we say that these things makes the woman the wife. So what makes the woman the wife? Let's go to the book of Sirach 26. Sirach 26. Sirach 26. We're going to start at verse 1. Blessed is the man that has a virtuous woman. Blessed is the man that has a virtuous woman. Family, what it means to be virtuous. What it means to be virtuous. What it means to be virtuous. Blessed is the man that has a virtuous wife. Virtuous means having or showing high moral standards. Chaste. She has high standards. You see how that works? That's what blesses the man. When the female has high standards. That increases the man's life when he has a virtuous wife. She has standards. And not just any standard either. Verse 2. See, the wife has to have standards. And those standards has to be virtuous. It has to be encompassed with morality. See, this is what gives the neighbor long days in the house. What do I mean by that? You saw what happened with Judith? When her husband died, she continued the legacy of him as if he was still there. And when she was getting ready to die, she dispersed everything to where both sides can gain from the things that they had acquired together. Verse 2, a virtuous wife rejoice her husband. A virtuous wife makes her husband feels good, secure. That's what a virtuous wife is. She stands on business. A virtuous wife rejoices her husband. And he shall what? Fulfill the years of his life in peace. You see how that work? Judith did not give her husband hell. She didn't. She displayed virtuous. She displayed vitality to her husband. If you look at verse 1, it says he shall double his life. And if you look at verse 2, it says the years of his life in peace. In verse 3, a good wife is a good portion. Which shall be given in the what? Portion of them that fear the Creator. So now I got a question. Will you end up with the man that you got? Is the Creator rewarding you for giving you that man that you got? She's a portion. It didn't say she's all. She's a portion. You see how that works? She's not the whole. She's a portion. And within the house, she's fulfilling that portion. She's not fulfilling everything in the house. She's only fulfilling her portion. See how that work? There's a portion. She's a portion, family. I know the Bible says the two shall become one, but she become one, and she developed that portion within that house. She's only a portion, family. She started off as a portion. And then over time, her value is supposed to increase. Remember I said that? It's supposed to increase. Where's that? In her, he finds what? The good thing, and he finds favor. Marriage license. It wasn't before the 19th century. They don't describe you as being married. It only just notifies the government that you have property, you have an inheritance, or you owe taxes. You see? The federal government did not begin to recognize the marriage license or the marriage in the law until 1913. Then in 1929, all states developed that law of marriage certificates. So family marriage certificates don't make you anything. Wedding rings don't make you married. It just show you that what? Huh? That you follow the customs of what? Let's go here real quick. Right, that's correct, Trey. Let's look at Egypt wedding rings. Let's look at Egypt wedding rings. They go one. Yep. Just giving you just showing you the wedding rings of Egypt. I'm trying to figure out why is it doing this. I might try to get crap from Amazon. They go his and her band. Egypt wedding rings. Or the rings. Rome. Now let's get into Rome wedding rings. Wedding rings. So you can't make this stuff up. There you go right there. Let me make sure I share my screen. I ain't gonna hold you too much longer because I know we started late. I'm gonna have to do a part 3. You saw Rome. Oh, this thing doing. They go right there, bam. Get a closer look at it. See, this is what you following. And when you follow this, you call yourself married. And then the church wedding rings is just plain bands. None of this stuff belongs to Israel. And then you got the Middle Ages wedding ring. You can pull that up for yourself. None of this stuff belongs to Israel. None of it. And better yet, we go by. Better yet, we go by the white wedding dress, walking down the aisle. The tradition of the woman walking down the aisles with her father stems from a time when women were considered property, and the father was essentially giving her daughter to her husband. The females considered property. That's where they get that from. None of this stuff belongs to Israel. See, they're trying to tell you women don't really have rights. That's where they get it from. Walking the woman down the aisle. This giving away symbolized a transfer of what? Responsibility from the father to the husband. So they transferring the responsibility as if the woman don't understand her responsibility. While the tradition is still popular today, many modern couples chose to what? Alter or modify it to reflect their own preferences and values. Talking about walking down the aisle. Sometimes the man will come in last and the woman will already be at the altar. But yes, that exists. When a woman in medieval times the man carried a woman across the threshold, the origin is linked to what? It is linked to the aura, rape of the Sabine woman. In Roman mythology, the soldiers abduct women. This event later became a wedding practice where a groom would carry the bride, symbolize the bride not being too eager to enter her new home. Another origin is from medieval Europe, where people believed evil spirits could be presented at the threshold and could harm the bride. See, all this stuff comes from Japheth or Ham. And we adopted it as if it's ours. You got some people hanging the marriage certificates up in the house. Look at the big old ring that my husband gave me. Boom! Look at that big old rock. The wedding dress is beautiful, white with a train behind it. And none of that stuff belonged to you. Some believed that tradition was the way for the groom to show dominance or as if he's dominating the female. In essence, the practice likely evolved from from a combination of ancient Rome practices and medieval superstitions about protecting the bride from harm and assuring a positive start to the marriage. See, all this stuff, this what you follow, and y'all claim that you're married. The wedding dress, walking down the aisle, the ring. You see? And a lot of you think you're married. And the marriage license, and you think you're married. You're supposed to write out your own ketubah. And the marriage is between the families. And once when the marriage happened, the wife has a role, a portion in that house. Not all. She's not all over the place. She has a portion, a duty in that house. And notice when we read the book of Judith, she was doing what? She was mimicking the things of her husband. She wasn't doing her own thing. And that's why when he died, she carried it on. See, a lot of times when the man dies, the woman moves forward. That's because the woman was never linked with the man. So let's compare the creative ways of marriage to the United States. See, rib means in an allegorical sense, if she came from his rib, that means she is only supposed to have his experience. She only supposed to have his experience. She don't supposed to have many experiences of what you call body count. He's supposed to be the only one she know. But when a woman has too many experiences, can she really be a wife? Sirach, let's go back, 26:1. Blessed is the man that has a virtuous wife. Because if that woman has many experiences, can she express from her own mouth? Can she express from her own mouth that she lost her value? Or is she going to hide? What she should be confessing? Like a lot of females do, they put on a white dress to show purity, even though they have lost their pureness. In that culture, Israel lost their pureness. The word wife means to be secure. Watch this. Secure means to what? Help, aid, and or relieve someone in distress. Her husband, Judith's husband, had a stroke, heat stroke. He was in distress, and he eventually passed. He died. He moved on from this realm to the next realm. She secured him even in his death. She stood in her portion, and when he passed, she stood on her portion and made sure his portion continued to run. She didn't run out to try to go get this and go get that and go get this and go get that. She would have been well in her rights if she did, but she stood on her portion. She continued in her portion and allowed her husband's portion to continue. Because you know why? She built her portion with his. A virtuous woman rejoices her husband. When the husband died, he understood what he was leaving behind. He understood. Some people won't let go. They'll try to hang on because they already know what's there. And the moment they close their eyes forever on this side, chaos break loose in the family. Uncle John gave me these shoes. Nah, he gave them to me. Nah, he gave me this hat. Nah, that was my hat. I was wearing it when he was alive. Now you're going. Now all hell break loose. A wife supposed to secure the husband in distress. Because as long as things going good, he's good. Let him do his thing. You build with him. But when distress happens, you supposed to secure him. See, a wife's supposed to secure her husband in distress. Not leave him to struggle. Not leave him to see if he figure it out. You see how that work? Verse 5. Well, I'm going to jump down to verse 8. Let's jump down to verse 8. In Sirach 26 and 8. Let's go back. Let's jump up to verse 6 real quick. It says, but a grief of heart and sorrow is a woman that is jealous over another woman. Let me read it again. But a grief of heart and sorrow is a woman that is jealous over another woman. And a what? A Scrooge or a scourge of the tongue which communicateth with all. See, Judith didn't have time to be jealous because she was busy in her portion. She was busy in her portion. You see? That's why when her husband passed, she understood how to move now and what not to move. But when jealousy is there, that means that female, that woman is not moving in her portion. See, jealousy is a negative emotion that arises from what? A resentment or anger towards someone who possesses something that person won't or what they did not achieve. Because you know why? Because when you don't achieve, when a female does not achieve what she's supposed to achieve, it's because she is out of pocket. Meaning she's moving in other things. She's not moving with her husband. See how that go? See, we get caught up on other people's culture, other people's idea of what we say marriage is. But the Creator said, I'm just going to make him a helpmeet. He didn't tell you to go to no courthouse. The marriage was between you and your family. Now, I understand what the courthouse is. I understand this and that, but just because they ask you and tell you, you don't have to. See? If a woman is securing her portion in her house, she has no reason to be jealous. She has no reason to follow outside customs. She has no reason for that. Verse 9. No, excuse me. Okay. So the scourge is of the tongue means malicious gossip or slander. When a woman is jealous, she will slander. Because there's something lacking within that female. A wife, she's going to fulfill her portion. Everybody else gonna slack. They're gonna do their own thing. Job, the 5th chapter, verse 21. We about done. Job 5:21. That wife has to fulfill her portion. She cannot follow the customs of this system. And even when the husband passed, she has to continue to keep the house balanced. Job 5:21. Thou shalt be hid from the scourge of the tongue, neither shall thou be afraid of destruction when it cometh. When people speak against you and you are being righteous, that's why in the book of Judith, it says her honor became more and more great. And in the nation of Israel, feared that. Because you know why? Because she was lovable, likable. She was more, people just honored her. Not because the beauty of who she were, it was because of the beauty that they knew that was in her, the spirit of her. Jump down to verse 13 in Sirach. Sirach 26:13. The grace of a wife delighteth her husband. The grace of a wife delighteth her husband. The favor of the wife makes the husband smile. And her discretion will what? Fatten his bones. Because he's rejoicing. He's happy. See, grace means the movement, her movement, and diligent means showing steady and earnest care and effort. That woman gonna move correctly. And she's going to show steady, she's going to be earnest, and she's going to care in how she moves towards her husband, with her husband, or about her husband. In verse 23, that woman has to be very careful how she moves. Because instead of you fattening his bones, you breaking his bones. A wicked woman is given as a portion to a wicked man. But a godly woman is given to him that feareth the Creator. See, a woman should be thankful when she finds a righteous man. Especially if she's not a virgin, that's her grace. Sad at work. And we're going to close out with these three verses. Let's go to Proverbs 12:4. A virtuous woman is a crown to her husband. That woman with standards is a crown to her husband. But she that maketh ashamed is as rottenness in his bones. Her job is to protect the neighbor. She can't get caught up in customs. She has to move with the ministry of that house. Ain't about no ring, ain't about no marriage papers. Tobit wrote out his own ketubah and sealed it. It ain't about no marriage papers. It ain't about no ring. It ain't about no walking over no threshold, coming down no aisle. What it's about is your portion. Because let's say you go through all those traditions and you never fulfill your portion. Are you a wife to the neighbor? Proverbs 31 and 26. Are you a wife to the neighbor? See, the enemy did a very good job on us by getting us to think in his culture, thinking that all this is good. But you can't find nothing, none of the stuff that we're doing is in the book. She opened her mouth with wisdom, and in her tongue is the law of kindness. Just using that as an allegorical point. That wife should have wisdom and the law of kindness. Proverbs 14 and 1. Every wise woman builds her house. That's that portion. Every wise woman builds her house. Like Judith did. She built, she stayed, she moved within her own portion. Even when he passed, she put on her widow clothes. She continued to allow things to operate. But if she was not in her role, then how was she able to know how to allow things to continue to operate if she was never operating in her role? operating in her role. She builds her house. So even when it's her turn to rule, she's going to keep things moving the way it's supposed to run. Because she operated in her portion. Got that run? How many wives David had brought home? How many wives Jacob had? Leah got mad. You stealing my husband. But Jacob loved Rachel. Abraham loved Sarah. But a foolish woman plucketh it down with her hand. This is what happened. You know why she plucks it down with her hand? Because she's not operating in her portion. Hagar was the handmaid. And Sarah said, hey, look at my handmaid. Leah and Rachel had two handmaids that they gave to Jacob. Ain't no man gonna turn down, you know what I'm talking about. But what I'm saying is, the wife role can never be covered. The neighbor's role can never be covered. The handmaid's role and the man role and the maid role can never be covered. Abraham had Elijah. His role can never be covered. He was Abraham's servant. His role could never be covered. Because you know what? They stayed within the portion that they were given. But the wife is not operating within her role. And the wife follows tradition. Is she being a wife to that husband? Or is she being a wife to tradition? When a woman builds, the wife should be building with what her husband has been building. But she should be building her portion. She don't have time for
She don't have time to be looking at the man, maid serving in the men serving. She got time for that. See, a lot of times, everybody look at everybody else's role. Everybody look at everybody else's position. Everybody look at what's there, what's here, how this and why that. But coming to close, when you look at your role, is it being fulfilled? Are you securing your portion? And if you're not the wife until you fulfill that role of your portion. Because the Creator said, I'm going to give him a help meet. Not somebody who's gonna have to sign papers, not somebody who got a marriage license, not somebody who put a ring on their finger, not somebody who throw flowers in the bag, not somebody who walked down the aisle, who get picked up and put over the threshold. A help meet. Judith was a help meet. And when she became the help meet, nobody could cover her position. They may desire it, because you saw in the scripture, there were many men desired her, but she never gave in. She didn't look at them like that. So family, everything in the neighbor's house cannot be desired except the neighbor. But that neighbor has to make sure he's in position. In order to receive anything else in the house. I'm going to do this right here. Any questions? I'm going to open up the chat. I'm going to open up the chat. Anybody want to say anything? Bring any comments? Chat is open. Link is in the chat. I'm not going to keep it open for long. Link is in the chat. Anybody wants to come up, you can disagree. It's okay. But if the wife is not operating to build with her husband, then that role is still open. Until that wife secure that role. It goes the same when Uriah came off the battlefield. What did Uriah do? Did he go home with his wife? Hey, baby, I'm home. I'm home. I got a little R&R time. Did he do that? No. He didn't do that. He was faithful to David. And he slept by David's door. He was faithful. He wasn't just only faithful to his house, he was faithful to David's house. But David wasn't faithful to Uriah's house. Credit told David, I could have gave you more women if that's what you wanted. So that's what I'm trying to tell you. The neighbor can be desired. He can be desired. But he can't have the mindset of David. You have to have the mindset of the law. Uriah stood on his point as a husband and as a neighbor. David betrayed his neighbor. See how that worked? And that's why the sword came to David's house. Okay, so nobody don't come up. So we're gonna go ahead on. Close on out. We have to make sure we stay within the roles that we build and that we were given, and build those roles to perfection. So when those roles are perfectly given to you, you can perfectly receive those roles and perfectly carry those roles out like Judas did. So family, this is Moreh Yaakov and ICFTR Network. May your Shabbat continue to be peaceful, restful, and relaxful. Until next time, shalom.